2023-2024 season, which is a wild thing to say. I was telling the people in the workshop, I was like, my brain has just caught up to it being 2023, so it breaks my heart a little bit to say 2024. But that's all right, we're moving on. Time isn't linear. It's all fake, right? It's cool. Thank you all so much for being here. We've got an amazing set of features tonight and a wonderful open mic bowl for me to draw from. I do want to start us off with our land and labor acknowledgement. We want to acknowledge that this event is being hosted on the unceded traditional homelands of the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. Many other tribes, such as the Miami, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Sauk, and Fox, also called this area home. The region's long been a center for indigenous people to gather, trade, and maintain kinship ties. Today, one of the largest urban American Indian communities in the United States resides right here in Chicago, continuing to contribute to the vitality of this city and to celebrate their heritage, practice traditions, and care for the land and waterways. We invite you to explore these unceded homelands, and for those watching on the live stream, to explore the unceded homelands on which you find yourselves as well, and to take this moment to honor all who come before us, the indigenous peoples displaced by colonization, as well as those who built this country through uncompensated and compulsory labor, those enslaved and those oppressed. We honor those who came before and all those who continue to live on this land as we hold this shared space for art and expression. So at the Chicago Poetry Center, we believe that poetry illuminates our individual and shared humanity, fueling thriving lives and healthy communities. Our mission is to connect people in poetry, equitably engage poets with communities, and foster creative literacy in the city and beyond. There's a whole bunch of information on the back table about our various programs, including our education programs, as well as our critical conversations at work, anti-racism program on the back table. You can see any of us for more information about that. Reading series schedule, like I mentioned, tonight is the first night of our new season. We have a bonkers lineup this year. The people who continue to say yes to reading for us blow my mind. So please do mark your calendars for the third Wednesday of each month. Coming up next month, we've got Courtney LeBlanc and Cynthia Manick. In October, we've got Brittany Rogers and Marcy Ray Henry. In November, we've got Jason Bayani all the way from California and Jacob Sens. The list goes on, I won't go into 2024. We also, through September, have a Monday night open mic and a featured reading series called Poetry at the Green. It's in the West Loop. It is totally free and awesome, so check that out. There's postcards for it on the back table there. Okie dokie. Those are all my announcements. Thank you for bearing with me. We are going to hear from 5 people in our open mic. I'm going to pull from this weird spiky bowl and not injure myself in the process, probably. And we'll see. We'll see who we hear from. Who are all those readers? All right. First up, we have Mitch Monroy. Monroy, is that correct? Yes. Come on up, Mitch. Everyone applaud till they get here.
Hi.
Hi.
How wild, unexpected. All right. So my name is Mitch Monroy. I'm pretty new to Chicago. I've been here like about a year, so this will be my second reading here in Chicago. All right, this poem is called A Body of Blue. Off Interstate 69, a billboard offers a reward for reporting illegal aliens. I've never felt more surveyed. Next door to Fast Eddie's Lube Wash, a stranger patrolling the parkway yells, "Faggot," out their car window. Before knowing of being watched, the sight was a body of blue. Sweet to the lips, mi mamita pleaded not to drink the water. In my mind's eye, she was the only one doing the looking. Unnoticed and unburdened, gave my body into death. Truth never hated being a woman, rather the cruelty of being perceived. Removed 15.7 pounds of breast tissue to let God in. There, I said it, omnipresent, my Lord, impossible to hold. Reached for a boy I love instead. Felt their skin on my bare chest. Our bodies, 95% water. I poured over. Together, we created an endless blue mouth. Thank you.
Bar by like making me cry in the back of the room. You know it's gonna be a good night. It's a good night. Oh, let me got it. Okay, good. Let's see. Who's next? Whichever. Okay. JK, a no. JK. Oh my God. This girl is just like winning. I'm also too tall for that. Everyone is. I should stay in the rest. Is that right?
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is JK. I'm Norway. This will be my first time. So I'll be reading a poem from a manuscript in progress. The poem is called A Biology Teacher Inquires of Cattle Egrets, and it's a bleeding title. And I think the poem is about daydreaming, if I'm to guess what the poem is about. The biology teacher inquires of cattle egrets, and I emerge absently from the lateness within to find all of us as is the bird. I'm sorry, I'll start again. A biology teacher inquires of cattle egrets, and I emerge absently from the lateness within to find all of us.
No, you're doing great. You got it. You got it.
A biology teacher inquires of cattle egrets, and I emerge absently from the lateness within to find all of us, as is the predicament of early morning students, still bent on cracking the knot of the question. The asker's ultimate treatise, to exit out the door, fail an entire class if an answer didn't fashion itself from thin air. I didn't know what anyone called it. Only that I looked, and they followed their herd. Only that I knew flight by its season and not by its name. I begged the season to dare carry me where it went. Fleeting insect of light, pricking a vast beach of black. But a season only loved to feed on ticks and flickered out of sight despite white inside evening's cocked palms. Inside evening's cocked palms. Consider a day and a passing flock of unnameable birds overhead. A sight to which children my age raised their arms and waved, each child singing for one of their fingers to be stained. Me, I stood nearby, in the middle of continuing on an errand, and wondered, stained with what, my friends? Stained with what? I didn't know they wanted for elsewhere, as I wanted to tarry farther than my house errands took me. that each among them ached to be set apart from the others. Me, I had convinced myself otherwise, that I couldn't daydream a thing to fluttering life. So I started a rumor that a season eats cow shit to survive, because I believed it too. I forgot myself and branched elsewhere on my way back from a reverie. Later, crow's excrement would miss me as I stepped through a door, squeaking into another room, dimly lit as a firefly, where the best parenting meant asking where. Where in God's name did a child think it was coming from? Myself, I wanted to yell back. I returned late from the errand of myself, having conjured an answer, obvious as the season in question, unanswered and uncrumpling mid-air, crackling each creased wing smooth above our clenched brains. White paper bird rising from the waste paper bucket. I raise my hand. Thank you.
All right. So much feelings in our okay, that's my song. Shantae Luna. Yes, yes. Can you back? Applause till they get up to the mic.
Thank you. Yes.
As I just got here, I didn't think I'd be called. This is titled Revenge. The potion is mighty as a granite rock. In a wide-mouthed jar, release the stock. Contents swaying and hues of midnight. Lethal potion, knock the drinker out of sight. On the label, list the many names. Some here, some gone, damage done the same. Older hands touching childhood skin. Under the eyes of God and next of kin. I carry the potion, hidden in plain sight. Witness to my prayers, dressed in most in spite of one day the face is reappearing. So my intent arrives with me steering. Unleashing venom, I'll watch it go down. My face wearing a smile instead of frown. I'll see the fear spread across their faces. Then I will know that we traded places. As the light of life goes out from the eyes, there'll be no tears upon the demise. My trauma then finally freed, and then my soul shall cease to bleed. Thank you.
I feel like I make such a show of like not looking at his name, but it's true. I don't want to know. I don't want to know who it's gonna be. Okay. Lynn Fitzgerald. Is that right? Is that an L? An L? Lynn? Are you here? You are here. Coming all the way from the back there, so you have to applaud more. Applaud Not a lot of warning, I know.
Yeah, no, but that's okay, thanks, thank you. I'm trying to find this. How's everyone tonight, good? All right? Sorry. I'm taking up my own time. Well,
We need to breathe after that.
yeah, I think so too. I just had it, but I can't. And we'll see. Well, anyway, I'll read a different one. Okay. I'll let it come on. I'm sorry about all this, but this, Okay, I'll read this I want to read this about my son because it's his birthday tomorrow. He's much older than in this poem, but anyway, this is entitled Highway Driving. Driving brings solitude, thoughts of younger days. No, not better, but surely younger. If I could freeze you in time, it would be at age 5. That first day, your honey hair falling softly around your face. Dressed in your red cardigan, white cotton shirt, blue pants, and black shoes, marching to kindergarten. Those buckets of tears you wept spilled over onto my cheeks too. In the rearview mirror, I checked my mascara. Watch as raindrops begin to fall against the window pane. Thank you.
All right, one more reader to close us out, and that will be Thomas Holton. Thomas. All right.
Hi. I'm gonna say everything twice. So I have a poem I have not read out loud.
New shit.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's just I wanted to do a wholesome poem about my friends that haven't done it. Like they inspired me so much and are so sustaining, and so I was like, just be like wholesome and straightforward and not like so. This one is called A Room with Friends. In a room with friends, I feel myself catching up on something important. Like sleep. Yes, a room with friends is like a deep sleep after a life of restlessness. All of the me's I've ever been are okay. The fight of life has been called off. One time my barber tells me how the old men he cuts are the ones who complain the most, who bristle at letting their heads be guided in such a way, who bristle at the realization that they are being cared for. The line between love and surrender is so thin that I can straddle it with both feet. It's so thin that we could let it fade away if we wanted to. Stick and poke. We could keep the moment alive until morning overwhelms us if we wanted to. Lay down roots, grieve what was, and reintroduce ourselves. Pack up the truck, make a list, start that story over from the beginning this time. In a room with friends, I feel myself catching up on something important. Thank you.
All right, one more round of applause for our opening writer. Best friends, oh my goodness. Whew, I don't know. There's something about like the lottery style that just like delivers unto the room, like the poems the room makes. Fantastic. Similarly, one would think in sort of booking out a reading series and be like, how a particular algorithm or some kind of thing. And oftentimes it's basically just like, here are these people whose poems I love, and then who fits on what date. And yet, like the connections amongst the poet's work always end up being like just what I look across who's reading together, and this is true for tonight. I think about like the conversation between these poems, and it just exploded with joy. I was thinking, in thinking about tonight's features so we have Maggie Queeney from right here in Chicago, and we have Brittany Rogers. Right. And as somebody who spent like a decade or so like in New York City, believing that New York City was like, the poetry center of the world. And all those things, not to denigrate New York City, except why not? They can take it.
Yeah.
I just think about like Midwestern poetics, and I think about like, it's not in terms of like cornfields, but like the commitment to authenticity that I feel like is required of like Chicago poets and Detroit poets. And it has to do like a particular, and that kind of authenticity feels really dangerous to me in like really important ways. And I feel like these are two poets who ride that line and tell these really critical truths, and are really like dedicated to like hewing to their own line. Like we know whose poems these are. So I'm super excited for you all to get to hear them tonight. We're gonna start off by hearing from Maggie Queeney, and I will read the bio. Maggie Queeney is the author of In Kind, winner of the 2022 Iowa Poetry Prize, and Settler, recipient of the 2019 Stanley Kunitz Memorial Prize, the Ruth Stone Scholarship, and an Individual Artist Program grant from the City of Chicago in 2019 and 2022. Her most recent work is found in the Kenyon Review, Guernica, the Missouri Review, and the American Poetry Review. She reads and writes in Chicago. Please join me in welcoming to our stage, Maggie Queeney.
Thank you all so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much to everyone at the Chicago Poetry Center. Super excited to read with Brittany. And those readers that started us off with the open mic, like, damn. Yeah, so thank you for being here and for being a part of this. I also usually like to say that a lot of my poems are about violence, particularly about domestic violence, violence against women and children, and sometimes sexual violence. So if that's not your jam, I understand, it kind of sucks. If you want to get up and walk around, if you need to do anything, please take care of yourself. I don't think I even get to expose it, but I also feel like maybe I'm not the best judge at this point. So, all right. So I'm going to start with a poem that I know that, or I heard that y'all read and wrote about in the workshop. It's called My Given Name, and I picked the poems I want to read today. Well, first of all, I just want to let you know that I didn't have to host it, so I'm using bobby pins, and you can have that for free. But the poems that I'm going to read are all poems that are kind of like exercise poems. So they're poems that I gave myself a certain exercise, or took an exercise from another poet or another teacher, and that I often use in the workshops that I teach as well. Just like in kind of the spirit of reading and creating, and like that being a dialogue. So this first one is called My Given Name, which is, by the way, Margaret. No one ever calls me that. Please don't. And it starts with a quotation from the Golden Legends about St. Margaret. And there was seen a marvelous brightness in the prison by the keepers, and there appeared an horrible dragon. It is said that he swallowed her in his belly, she making the sign of the cross, and the belly brake asunder, and so she issued out all whole and sound. Here I am, telling myself the story of myself again, the mammal of me blowing my lone note, grit both the middle and the start of it. A bit of sand or shell shard, the hard speck of stone or flint or bone or beak, what cannot be broken back into nothing but offers an ever smaller division. This is what made me what I am, mar as in mark, as in wound, as in sea, as the root word pearl at the center of me, damage and flaw. I freak iridescent, cultured or wild, my pet forms magpie then maggot, magnificent imprisoned dirt, magnified to trapdoor, magnet of hurt, my sputtering beauty. Bowing to the ground, I listen to the rush inside my body, hush of gas, bloom of blue petals ringing the jet, as nerves sing their leviathan's sibilant songs deep in the ocean of me. I ward and seal and cover. I swallow. I round into a swelling nacre moon, the only gemstone bred out of a living creature. Or the woman reborn whole, limbs spilling out of the dragon's belly, the scales, meat and fat, parted and heavy as the velvet curtains, framing the spotlight, the beam of hot gold gracing the tramp of me. The rough labor of me, my midwife, my insane, my orphaned, my born homeless. I spiral my shelter, my own shell of bone. My reptile mother formed over my body a bell that gleams and refuses to sing. Tongued in a stone shard, lipped harmless, hearted in an arrowhead fitted to a pin. The skin grown through the armor, the fur grown over the scar of the collar. That's not necessary, but thanks for giving me a second to sit. I also have and this is an assignment actually that I give in workshops that I do when we're writing self-portraits. We do like self-portraits as kind of like those icebreakers. Like, if you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? What color you would be if you could be any color. If a sin, then my greed for material things, my envy of others. If of the earth, then groan and whisper, and I swallow the sun. I am difficult to obtain, untamable, and everywhere wild and tangled. Marked in stalk, wrapped in a ribbon about youth, I spread in a rooted flood and break rock with parched strands of hair. I have killed whole families at home. The women paid to shape me into flowers, and the women who paid to pin the flowers to their breasts, drag yards in a bloom or plume from their waists. Centuries of men have labored to make me behave, unbraided, unmixed, pure of woad and weld, fine in exile. I am the mother never known, the middle child, feeding us all from her own faded bruises, cloud ceiling in a tornado season. This poem is called Salvage, and it's about my love of thrifting, which is never going to die. Salvage. A winter spent sifting the second-hand hanging racks of moth-gnawed wool, zippers snarled along dress spines, unraveling hems where thorns of old sweat prick, traces of blush rose the collars. Bald receipts bloom faded songs, smoke ghosts, and perfumes foreign tongues coil like hard-donating snakes inside purse linings. Time scores mar the faces of plates, and time-tarnished links of chain scribble boxes scarred velvet insides. What draws me, sweat and mesh, bolt and shrouded, naked inside the infinite other sheaths, to mock, try to disguise, to hide the old hag following in her floor-length fur, like a mass grave held open and shining, arrayed aureole out of the wings of shot silk lining, to her bare, her milk blue skin scribbled maroon, pubic hair dull as a pelt salted and taut, hanging to cure over the headboard of a bed. This is another of the, what kind of shape would you be? What kind of animal you would be if you could be an animal? I was born ungrateful, hungry and haunting, a scavenger. Omnivorous, I nose the sides of highways, the arrangement of other women's hair, shining yards of tinsel torn from the float. I look long into the buttery faces of the infants howling in register lines and search for my own. A cabbage head sweating fuchsia, the dress that keeps the shapes of the last owner, what I fold myself into, a fur collar coated in another century's cigarette smoke, paper bag wadded into a greasy hive housing burger rinds, tacky strands of cola beating a cup. I have my tastes, but would take finally anything. There is no end to the hunt or wanting. Even my dreams are veined in twists of wire, tatters of fiberglass sheeting, a bouquet of squeaking, bright and bitter weeds. I have 3 more, but they're a little longer. I'll try to read them slower. I always joke that I'm the third out of 4 kids, so like if I don't talk quickly, like it just doesn't happen. So this poem is called Victim Root, and it's about the word victim, which is like a pretty common assignment, write about etymology. Yeah, I was really drawn that victim is tied to the Latin for to conquer, which makes sense, but I hadn't put that together before. So, victim root. Even in the Latin female, I trace my mother's name, letters splayed like legs or branches. The bones I had been scolded grow, that I had read burned white in sacrifice. Told what it was to be holy, as a child, I applied the dustiest rose lipstick my mother owned, chewed the bud made under the veil, stained my cheeks' color, a slight bride in sheer slip, before the origin that rendered me conquered, as Victor claimed a few entries further. Each imitation pearl glowed like knowing against the knots of hair torn smooth. The floorboards groaned over my head. I was trained to hold still under a man's hands, that virtue lies in the lines of the hind, sleek ankles stuck in the air as she struck still to hide. Then, with a darkened, blushing bit of rag, I worked it off after. The female hand that arranged, the unlocking bedroom doors lining the hall like a deck of cards, a puzzle of blank backs, the chance of the draw, the pull of the heavy curtain, the dark audience, the rehearsed gasp marking the night from evening, the white shock of glove, quick as a dove darting over the tornado-shaped gold light, ending in a halo, a hem, to circle a single stocking foot, sleek heel. I too designed to fashion another body after my body, to press that other smaller version forward into service, the place I was made to take. Impossible to identify in the dark, the daughters I will never have and never know, among all the bodies that made my body not my own. This poem is called The Women, and I don't know if you can see, but it starts left justified, and then in the middle it kind of sneaks into the middle, and then it moves to be justified the other way. I don't know, I think that's important for you to know, but now you do. The women. The women more than the men even. The ones who looked like I looked, who called my name in a voice I could not identify from my own on recordings. The women who were my cheekbones, who, when they wanted to shake their younger, stupider selves, saw my smaller body always X years behind, X sizes smaller, X less. When solved for, I was the variable named accident. The second sister, the child ticking through the countdown of an explosive device, echoing down the oceanic tiles of the school hall. I was the engine of the chainsaw stalling, the ghost who splintered the cupboards, who buried the silver eel of the knife into the floor. I covered the rooms in a seamless cloud of flour, opened the front door to the night as we slept. There was no word in the languages I knew for the species of help I needed, so I dug a hole and buried house keys in the garden, fed necklaces into the hollows of trees. I was the one who knocked from inside the ceiling, who chewed the garlands of red and blue plastic behind the walls down to each wire spine. I was the silent fire detector, the dead batteries chirping like a toy bird, the one who is never named. When summoned, I shattered the lamps, cracked the glass covering the faces inside the picture frames. To repeat is to make strange, make what happens smaller, farther away. It was the women who laughed, who asked what else I thought would happen. The women who told me they knew what I would do, that I had to come back. The women inside the fascia and bone I lived in, who doubled, then multiplied, copied my features over and over the landscape until even a thick blanket of snow was the milk blue pale of the skin that shielded us all in false innocence. How the red rose over the years. An infant will be drawn to an adult with large eyes, the proportions of another newborn. I remember the faded blue, frantic darting like a bird wrapped in the soft brine of ocean air, caught in the red netting of my grandmother's eyes. That morning on the staircase when I was, I think, 5. She clutched a tumbler of orange juice, cried that he needed sugar. It is strange what children will remember and not remember. Did I look then from behind my mother's thigh? Did she need to see him gluing, his thick stillness in the rental house bed too? What is the difference between the remembered and the imagined, between wanting and action? I remember how long it took to name, to own the thick bulb of joy pressing against my breastbone, the tender, thirsting rootlets, the invisible tendrils that fractured and strangled, suckled the bright blood out of the woman I come from and then broke into bloom. All right, last one. I write a lot of series of poems because I like to, and I really love Abbott's Metamorphoses. I was a classics nerd in college, and it was one of the first books I ever read that actually talked about like the aftermath of trauma. And so I know for a while like, it was kind of unpopular to read Metamorphoses, but as someone with complex PTSD, that was actually like the first time that I was like, oh, like that's what that is. Yeah, so like I, really clicked it. Yeah, so I have a series of poems in here from the Metamorphoses. This one is one I often end readings on because again I like to. So it's actually an erasure of that book, that poem, and the what remains are all the things that women are turned into. Usually after transgressing, like by being sexually assaulted by a god or something like that. But sometimes just like, being better at a goddess than leaving or being right about something. So this poem is, Metamorphoses, the female into. Laurel tree, limbs bent, entwined into crown, heifer, bank of marsh reeds, handful lashed into pipes, songs in another breath, a clutch of conifers weeping amber, a black bear, quarry, constellation, white crow, black crow, grass cropping mare, flames, voice repeating the last, darkened mulberry, fragrant incense seeping out of the ground, violet like flower tracing the sun's path, rock, darkness seeking bats, sea goddess, rock, 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 seabirds, serpent, a prize, a bride, monster crowned in snakes, ossifer, weapon, black and white magpies arguing in your language, water flowing fountain, half alive, half dead, flock of tuneful maiden-faced birds, one of a pair of mountains, crane, stork, ash-gray spider weaving her traps in the corner of the ceiling, corpse, 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 spring leaping into the summit's anorexic air. Nightingale, swallow, traitor, mother, cast off ex-wife, witch, weaver of the poisoned robe, deadly gift, filicide, unnatural, marble figure, corpse, patricide, exile, heron, diadem in the sky, guinea hens, 5 isles, a further island, linden tree, slave, then fisherman, then mare, then bird, then cow, then deer, weasel, lotus that leads when plucked, lotus, spring flowing from shrub oak, nail, twice dead shade, rock, horse, shame burning their bodies red into rock, myrrh, lioness, grove of oaks, halcyon, male, barking bitch snapping her jaws, snow white doves, deadly whirlpool, virgin-faced hounds snarling between her thighs, water than nothing, a statue of a woman, a star inside her husband constellation, corpse, living female, fountain of chilled water. Thank you.
Going for Maggie Queeney. Asked you to applaud more so that I could remember how to breathe. All right. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. Got nobody's shaking. Shake it out. All right. Y'all. Even if you're shaking by myself. All good. I have my pride. Okay. Brittany Rogers. So excited to bring up to this area, which we call stage. Brittany Rogers, the poet, educator, and lifelong Detroiter. She has work published or forthcoming in Indiana Review, 4-Way Review, Underbelly. We'll talk more about that later. Mississippi Review, I will just pause to say, Underbelly Mag is an online journal that a wonderful poet named Maya Marshall and I put together. It's about revision. We have an early draft of the poem and the final draft of the poem. It's super awesome. It's totally free. Check it out. Maggie and Brittany are both in it. Anyway, Mississippi Review, the Metro Times, Breakbeat Poets, Black Girl Magic, Obsidian, Literature and Arts in the African Diaspora, Lambda Literary, and Oprah Daily. Brittany is a fellow of VONA, The Watering Hole, Poetry Incubator, and Pink Door Writing Retreat, as well as a 2023 Gilda Snowden Awardee. She's editor-in-chief of Muzzle Magazine and co-host of the, I never know, is it Versus? VS? Versus. Yes. Versus, okay, I never know how to pronounce it, I think the Versus podcast. I apologize for that introduction. Please help me bring to the stage, Brittany.
Super excited to be here. Thank you so much, Marty, for inviting me. Thank you so much, Maggie, for opening us up that way. It was amazing. I'm really glad to be in Chicago. Chicago is one of my favorite places next to Detroit because Chicago is a place that rides for Chicago the way Detroit rides for Detroit, right? So I always jokingly say that we're cousins, and that makes me happy. This is a very, very, very Detroit set because I'm a very, very, very Detroit girl. And it you'll see kind of all my obsessions: migration, audacity, those sorts of things. So, the first poem is called "Doing Too Much." It's an ode to Little Caesars Arena and the Ice Cam. Do y'all know what the Ice Cam is? Okay, the teeniest context is that the ice cam, instead of the kiss cam where you smooch on camera, there's an ice cam for Detroit specifically because we're like flashy and people flash your jewelry and things like that. It's my favorite thing. It's so who we are. It's my favorite thing. So. Doing Too Much, Ice Camp, Little Caesars Arena, January 2022. herself a piston-themed baby shower, makes a museum of balloons and basketballs and gold, and her fans call her coffee tacky. Twitter says the Detroit nigga is just the Alabama nigga with buffs. Rappers gifted our governor a pair, gratitude for the year she dared keep our city from dying. Outsiders didn't call her what they call us for wearing sunglasses in a city where we are the only light. They say ghetto and mean migration. They say Detroit stand up and we raise our wrists like shot glasses. Toast to us and our colored minks, and our Cartiers, necks swaddled in brick thick chains. It ain't a flex if he ain't wearing at least two in a Jesus piece. If his watch ain't thick as firewood, what's love if your face isn't encased in a necklace long as spike? There are things worse than extravagance, and they all know our names. This next poem is a long poem. It's my sonic crown. It's about migration. Good ground. Before I was born, my kin owned things. A corner store, 2 family flats, good ground. We grew round fruit, thick bark, lost it all and no one calls to explain how. The living let lies fall from salt-slick tongues. Not grown enough, don't recall. Who told you? I comb through the obituaries, but they too lie closed mouth. Maybe death is the only truth. I keep trying to come home. Everywhere I'm from is theory. Everywhere I'm from is theory. I gather a bouquet of maps and mark. We were here, under the factory, in front of that old Catholic church, where the eggshell house was torn out the frame. Yes, there, under the freeway's thin ankles. My husband and I buy a house on the west side, paint the dining room tangerine, walk to the park ballooned with barbecue blunts, laughter, oh, the laughter, floating, bubble thick. You gotta be from here to get the joke. It's not funny, but it is. They done put, of all things, a cocktail bar at the corner of my granny's old block, where her once house now sits desiccated and fragile. How long has it been since I flew from the garage's roof, soaked my bruise in her old clawfoot tub? Can I tell you a secret? I didn't want that house. Not then. I wanted everything stainless. Forgive me for needing land that I was the first to walk on. I already belonged to them, all of them. Daughter of all of them. Daughter of hymns and riots. Daughter of the remnants left after flames lit the whole town. Granny said we got people down in Georgia, the Carolinas, Alabama. She makes me take their first and last names, last rumored locations. Good girl child, but I lie when I vow to visit while in town. Instead, I workshop, craft talk, fellowship, buy books. How do I look south for the living when I last took the trip for the dead? All I remember of the trip down south is Detroit's frozen arms shoving our minivan, full and cranky, all the way to Orangeburg. I want to say it was a good service, that my great-grandfather's body looked nice, his hands waxy like well-tended fig leaves. Before we put him in the ground, what looked like a snake sprung from the yard of our distant kin. I can't picture the casket, but I still hear my cousin's howl of laughter, so loud the magnolias shook. Look at us. So city, spooked by grass. Look at me, so city, I won't consider leaving though winter grips my neck with its blue, blue fingers each November. Ain't no rest here, but why should I give up my house, my aunties up the way, my church on every corner, my black folks, my hallelujahs, my makeshift cousins, my goddamn can't nobody outdo us. We all know New Detroit got sticky fingers. See how it's stole Cass Corridor, Midtown, Belle Isle, the family's market, my granny's house. Is this the bounty her mama migrated for? Her mama migrated here after the first riot, years before the second. I plead for stories about Georgia. What made y'all flee? Would you ever fly off and leave us? She swears she's here to stay, but the only honesty is death. She reminds me she'll meet the Lord one of these days. I don't want him to have her. Forgive me my blasphemy, my tongue soiled and barren. In this line of daughters, I am the selfish flame. Of all that her hands made, I am the legacy that remains. Stubborn as our city, before I was born, her kin. After watching the video by Cardi B, after Bitch Better Have My Money by Tiana Clark, I too want to walk in the bank brazen, to rain dollars over my friends' asses, fund any pleasure we want. I want enough money for men to cover their eyes when I walk in the room, enough that no one reaches for my waist without asking. I want to perch, straight back and haughty, pat my pussy, shoulder roll. Damn, I'm tired. I was born to flex. It's not really about the money. Who would I have been had my family kept the land we owned, before the factory buyout, before we stopped scraping change together to keep the farm I never got to step foot on? I don't want to be rich. I want enough coin to relax, to spoil my damn self, to tend to the baby gasping and rooting for milk without worrying about ruining my good dress. Okay, so brief bit of context for this next two poems. There's a long series and my first main script about the trade libraries, which are like a whole hallmark foundation of my upbringing. They're everything real to me. They also are the place where I checked out a whole bunch of books. Can't y'all see this is embarrassing? Okay, so when I was a baby queer, before I could tell my mom I was a baby queer, I checked out a bunch of books that were mature for my age, and then left them at home on accident when I went to college, and then was like, wow, I can't ask her to go take them back. So I ended up on like this huge debt to the library. So there's a series in the book that kind of explores that. I had like a fake library card for a long time. It's a whole thing. They knew me by alias for like 7 years. So these are two poems in that series. Detroit Public Library, Franklin Branch, Explanation of Debt. To whom it may concern. I came here so often, knew me by my whole government name, always by myself, lonely as a dream. I never asked for assistance, no need. I combed the dust-kissed shelves with the precision of a beautician's hands, looking for the cover with, so close they could be, I could be. This is not about who kissed me in the vestibule of, I couldn't return your books. Not without being honest about, you all should really consider some restrictions. Big black ropes, an alarm that calls when minors approach, anything to keep me from, in that back corner, while the radiator hummed her low, uneven tune. I didn't bother with embarrassment. Maybe I was never a child. I did more than hold. And after, I snuck the book, all those books to the dumpster, and didn't consider at all what I might owe.
Fuck me up.
Detroit Public Library, Chandler Park, erotic fiction section. Before the borrowed library card became my new identity, I stole. Zane novels tucked into Guess jeans, something like guilt pebbled in my belly. I never got caught, not there, not in the park or behind that old church. Sprawling, sneaking vine, all 7 sins and alive. This is not a confessional, yet the shells watch me fill my hands with possibilities. At night, I read. Beneath thin covers, my fingers flip, touch, imagine. My tongue replaces each fictional lover's name with her own. Bedside Baptist. When done right, the final ringing run of total praise flings my clay arms so wide the sun could jump straight through. From my laptop, I watch Fantasia put on a concert in her living room. She draws out that last amen, the notes up to curl clean, so full my chest grows thick with water lilies. I'm not fit for the Lord's house. Crop top, bonnet, boy shorts, lush drunk, giddy off my own perfume. I last wore a slip when we lived at the church 3 nights a week. Back then, I shamed my mother when I wore jeans, refused the baptismal pool, fell asleep in the back pews in the lap of a girl I was too close to. I don't miss the thin rows of wood, their stiff, frowning faces. At home, I am my own priest. I offer my shrill praise, proud, loud, so rowdy he runs in to see about me. Okay, these are my last 3. This next one is for my best friend, Ajane Dawkins.
Oh,
They're from Detroit, they know Ajane. The year they left everyone to die, for Ajane. Fact, I feared I would not live through that last labor. Fact, sometimes, more than half the days, no, nearly every day, anxiety licks my face with its wild, irrational thirst, and I feel its damn threat for hours. My therapist gave me a worksheet to track my catastrophic thinking, but I am valid this time, contracting, watching my blood pressure leak. You FaceTime from Ohio to monitor how they place the IV, the epidural, the flat hospital pillow behind my humid back. Fact, you are the first call I made after, at 3 a.m., over the sound of newborn lungs learning themselves. I promise I did not make you drive the 3 hours back home to tend to my dry nipples, my everything bleeding, my hair unbound, sparking at the roots. Some things take hours to dig through. What has a lover seen that you have not? Can I tell them you set me down and parted and greased and twisted? That for a week, all I ate was made by your hands. And these last 2 poems, if I were Detroit, if Detroit was me, these are the poems. Blackout, August 2003, Detroit. And it's actually, the anniversary of this was like yesterday or the day before. It was one of the biggest power outages the US ever saw. At first, people were worried it was an act of terrorism, but when the blackout was confirmed as merely a power outage, the mood shifted. Michigan Radio Newsroom. The grills turn up. Somebody's speakers serenade all our porches and we jam, smoke-soaked and lawless, all open hormones in this powerless field. What is it about the end of the world that you think you are owed an explanation? From God, from your mama, from the boy who ghosted months ago when the air became more steam than breeze, his number still memorized and half-dialed each evening. You would chase him down, make him answer to you while the streetlights are silent, but this block, this city don't know how to tell us apart in the daylight, done swallowed whole bodies before this night, ripe for disappearing. First, the man of the house next door swept clean off his mama's porch. Maria, a dandelion blown away from the passenger seat of her new man's custom cutlass. My city give a fuck about the proper order of things. She loved a malfunction, all them down wires, mirrors broken in the street. Our minivan set on stolen bricks by thieves kind enough to leave the metal skeleton stripped in my driveway. This block, hormone swole, smelling herself. There is no law. Sometimes it may it snows. Y'all have been super kind and super gracious. This is my last poem. I'm too pretty for this. After Ross Gay, after Gwendolyn Brooks. I'm too pretty for this. A spell I cast when shame opens its lying mouth and calls me out my name. The once lover swung his fist. My front door padlocked, belongings sprawled on the patchy lawn. Check and go knows me by name, and so does the nail salon. I should be embarrassed by how I preen before beauty's lap. I know what they say of the hiss of vanity, how it holds me back from heaven. I know also how grief folds my voice into its back pocket. Don't think me dramatic. People have died, touched, starved, penniless. I will not settle for anything less than sunflowers. In every room, a vase full of their ornate faces, bone straight backs. Everything keeping me alive is the most beautiful. Every day's color is yellow. Thank you.
Brittany Rogers, good bus. I can't with the goodness. All right. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Couple quick closing things. I don't know what's wrong with this microphone. Maggie will have books for sale in the back. Yes, excellent. There are still beverages for purchase. Please feel free to hang out, move past your introversion, make a new poetry friend. I speak to myself more than to you in this. Sign up for the mailing list if you're not already on it. Huge thanks to Makeda, our ASL. Literary Life intern, February's for dinner. Our super volunteer Chris behind the bar. Alright. Have a fantastic night. Make a new friend. Come back in September, October, November. We'll see you soon.